Good morning to you from the van. So they want to make teenagers HGV drivers. Now, what do I think of this? I think it's a bad idea. I'm all for getting the young into work, but I wouldn't have wanted to give a 17-year-old me a HGV license. I was an out-and-out nutter. Now, there's a lot of very grown-up teenagers out there, and maybe they'd be all right, but it's trying to weed out the grown-ups from the immature ones. Now, I've got to be honest. Now, I'm going to boast about my daughter here, but admittedly, yes, she was driving a vehicle properly on her own off-road from the age of about sort of between 7 and 10. 7, she was driving on her own. 10, she could tow a trailer around and do stuff like that. So she's not a usual example. But when she went on the road, she was steady. All right. Anyway, there are many kids out there that they don't know what their pronouns are. They get confused by that, or how many genders there are. So all those buttons and gears and stuff in a cab is going to do the head in. Also, it's not a place where you can have a huff and flounce. It's not a place where you can get emotional. It's not a place where you can let pressure get on top of you. Otherwise, bad things happen. And also, it's a very, or in most cases, unless you're doing door-to-door, and even that, it's a very lonely existence. So can they take solitude? Now, all right, when they're in their bedroom for hours on their own, what are they doing? Well, they're either talking to their friends on a computer or magicking the beans. You tell me. Well, depending if they're male or female. I don't know. But the thing is, yeah, you're asking somebody who hasn't made... and this is not all. Some of those kids are going to be great at it, all right? And this is the problem. It would be trying... if you could find out which ones of those are mentally geared up for this, all right, who are grown up, who don't take everything to heart, who have manners. Now, manners are going to come into driving a truck incredibly. Just because, oh, fuck them, that attitude causes crashes. You have to be the one that forgives everybody else on the road. Because not everybody else has had your training. In fact, most people haven't. And that's another thing. They want to reduce the training right down to make it easier. That's not a good thing. Now, in this report I read, they blamed lorry drivers retiring because of Brexit. No, lorry drivers retire because of the shit conditions and the shit wages. That's why. There's, at the last count, there was some in the region of about, I think, somewhere between 150 and 250,000 people who were legally capable, i.e. they had the license to drive the vehicle. However, they chose not to because they'd had enough, hung up their keys and got themselves a job which wasn't quite so savage, because the hours are incredibly long and the solitude. And this is another thing. A lot of these kids don't have the focus and the function of being able to go on for long hours. I don't think I did at that age. So it's not picking on all kids. Just think it is a thing. As you get older, you train your brain to be able to cope more with staying awake. One of the hardest things I found as a kid, driving, this was, and I loved driving. If I went on a long journey, all I wanted to do was go to sleep. It was fucking impossible to try and stay awake. Now, as you get older and you drive trucks, you train yourself. It's like anything else. With training, you get better. I can drive 4 hours straight now, no problems. 4.5 hours if need be. So, yeah, but as a kid, no. You're not geared up for that. So what's this training going to take then? 3 hours of truck simulator, and if you haven't written that off too many times on the game or whatever, you're all good to go then, is it? Oh, I'm taking the piss. But you need to make the training as difficult as it is now, all right? Because if they can't pass it, we don't want them on the road. What they're trying to do is do anything. They've tried to get foreigners in. They've given up, a lot of them. I mean, most of our lorry drivers in the agency places now are foreigners. That's the reality of it all, all right? Polish, Lithuanian, Romanian, you know, that's the way it is. They tried getting ex-cons, didn't work. They wanted the army to come in, but the army only trained so many lorry drivers up, so that didn't work. Basically, they tried everything else but paying the rate. They hate the idea of you lot earning enough money, right? God forbid. Can you imagine that a lorry driver earns enough money that his missus doesn't have to work and she can look after her own kids and maybe even homeschool them, so they don't have to be indoctrinated on anal sex at the age of 6 or something like that? I mean, can you imagine that at our jacket? If at my age, I come home and said to my dad, Dad, they're trying to teach us how to get fucked in the ass at the age of 6. He'd have been like, and hell would have broken loose, and rightly so. But in the old days, and I'm going to be nostalgic. This was before my time in driving lorries, right? It was only a few years before my time. But if you went back to, say, the 80s, a lorry driver could quite happily, on his wage, support his house. His missus could stay at home, look after the kids. They could own a car, all right? And probably get a holiday out of it at least once a year. Well, imagine that. But they don't want that. The truth is, they don't want to pay the money. Now, I've worked for a few of these supermarket industry, companies, and they're saying that with this new law, they can reduce the training and get them out there straight away. I don't know if any of you can cast your mind back a few years ago. They let a young and inexperienced driver out, and he was naive, because you are at that age. And he worked for an unscrupulous operator, and the long and the short of it was, the legal side of it wasn't taken care of, and he went down this steep hill that probably shouldn't have been going down, loaded up in a truck, and basically the brake crapped out, and when he finally came to a crashing halt, he landed on a car and killed everybody in it. The reality is, if you make a mistake in this, right, and there's other people around, you're going to kill them. That's it. Game over. If you make a mistake when you're on your own, I don't know if any of you've done this, you'll be driving down a motorway, or you'll be driving on a dual carriageway or whatever. I mean, I've been going down the A34 lately, and there's quite a few. There's just a big gap in the fence, and you can see the tire marks where they've gone through. That's where a lorry driver's normally fallen asleep at night and just drifted off the road. And that'll be an experienced lorry driver, but he's doing as many hours as possible. I mean, agencies, they want you to work 5 and 6. That's 5 days this week and 6 days next week, because they get paid for you being in. They make money on you. They don't care if you're well or if you're tired or if you're injured or whatever. At the moment, I'm struggling with what could be carpal tunnel, right? So it hurts. And it's an incredibly physical job that I've gone into. But, oh, well, the body's looking better for it, by the way. That's the good news. But it's shattered the whole time. And then you have to put driving on top. Now, I reckon I'm doing up to these 70 hours a week. All right? That's a lot of hours. Can these kids take that? I'm struggling, and I can put up with a lot. So, another thing, cheers by the way, is a lot of these Irish firms will take full advantage of this because they can't get drivers over there, and they'll beast them straight into Europe. 17-year-old, articulated vehicle, let loose in Europe. What could go wrong? I'm all for getting them in, but I think they should be drivers' buddies. And then what I also think you need to do is take them to a university or college somewhere where you show them people being cut out in bits. Horrible footage. Because if they're not mentally capable of taking that, they ain't mentally capable of driving a truck. On the last induction for the last place, or the place that I'm at, they actually show a video of a driver wandering around without his high-vis on, and he got in the way of these huge forklifts that lift containers on, and it rolled over and squished his head everywhere. Went like a melon. Gross. But that's the kind of footage that you need to see. This is what you're driving. You are driving a killing machine. And being slapdash is I was slapdash as a kid, all right? I'll admit this. But this is the one thing that you can't be slapdash. You know, say for instance, when you're connecting up, you forget to put your pin in on the fifth wheel. Think of what could happen there. Or think of you wandered around, you've not noticed it's got loose wheel nuts. Now, assuming it wasn't the driving axle, not the driving axle, the steering axle. If it was one of the other axles where maybe you will keep going, all right, there might be a lot of noise and all the rest of it. They had, when I was younger, my neighbour, she lost a friend because there was somebody going around undoing the wheel nuts on these lorries, quarry lorries they were. And he came down the motorway and this wheel bounced across and went straight through the windscreen and killed them both, all right? Now, a lorry wheel at 55 mile an hour bouncing away is one hell of a force when it hits you, right? If you stood up, it'll kill you outright. If you're in the car, chances are it could come through the windscreen and you're dead, or it'll flatten the roof on top of you, you're dead, or it'll come through the side. You get the idea. That's just a wheel. Now, if something else went wrong, brakes or whatever, it doesn't bear thinking about. If you drive too fast, which kids generally do, I mean, I've said before about that female in the last job I was in, right? She was a very pretty woman, right? That everybody, she was a lovely to talk to, right? Which everybody forgave her of her mistakes because they were all bloody men around there. They're like, oh, isn't she lovely? Well, some of them were. Some of them went, she's going to kill some fucker. And she was driving flat out, braking too late, what actually happens in the end, because I made this mistake, right? I was driving for a different firm, not been driving too long, about a year and a half. And it was the first time I'd loaded the truck up fully, 44 ton. And it was juice. And I came up to this roundabout that I'd come up to numerous amount of times, and I tried stopping, and all it wanted to do was push me straight across the roundabout. Now, luckily, nobody was coming. I managed to get out the skid that it was in and go around the roundabout. But that was youth and over-exuberance, right? And I was in my 30s. 20, 19, 17? No, it's not going to work. And the worst still, just to keep the prices down, right? But this is more than just keeping the prices down. This is making sure that people, the shareholders, get their pay, that the company makes more money. I'm not sure that this is entirely being passed on to you, but what will happen, it will be your relatives or your friends or whatever that get wiped out by a truck driven by an inexperienced person. Now, there's more than one victim here. There's the victims of, or the victims get killed, then their family and friends, and then the truck driver that they placed in there to do this job cheap because they couldn't be fucked to pay the rent. It's not going to work. So, there's no way that I can see this working. I'd love it to, because I want to get the kids working. But just because you've had a couple of goes at Truck Simulator, brilliant. There it is. No, you need to pay us. It isn't anything else in the industry, right, bar this. The pay and the conditions. You treat us like shit and like we're fucking blithering idiots. We're not. We picked this industry because we don't like people, generally speaking. We want to be around our own company. And do you know how many lorry drivers have an IQ that goes through the fucking roof? I know a lot. So we're not stupid. All right, there are some fucking lunks out there, but at the end of the day, there's still some of the dumb ones, or the ones that aren't the most, I don't know, the standards, the good plodders, I'll call them, all right? These people still do their checks properly. They know how to drive a truck. They get from A to B in a steady fashion. They get the stuff off in a steady fashion. They get it done. There are some fucking rogues out there, but they're in every industry, so you can't do a great deal about that. But generally speaking, we get treated like idiots, but we can do a job that many can't. And what they want to do is get many to do the job, and it isn't going to work. So I'll tell you what you want to do. You want to pay the few, many. All right? Pay us. Pay us a lot. All right? Because at the end of the day, without us, you don't get fed. And if we get it wrong, you get killed. All right? Or somebody you love gets killed. But the point is, this stuff still has to get from point A to point B to point C to point... It goes on. You need us, right? And to be honest, we're not asking for, I don't know, £50 an hour or anything like that, obviously. But a minimum, right? A minimum of £25 an hour. But it should be nearer £30 an hour. Because the other thing we have, away from your family for huge amounts of time. They change your start time by the day. So you cannot plan. So your week is entirely written off. Forget it. And then when you finished your week, all right, the 2 days that you've got off are usually trying to get over the week you've just had and then preparing. This vehicle, what I'm in now, my home, right, it takes me a few hours to turn it around when I get back. You've got to take out the wastewater, clean the thing down, take out the dirty washing, check the fridge and all the rest of it. Go shopping, put the washing on at home, do all the cleaning at home, restock everything, turn it around, make sure it's fueled up in the trailer and everything. All of these things. So that's a chunk out of my day off, right? And then obviously the jobs you've got to do at home. Okay, then you've got to meet up with the family. So that's your day gone. You've got one more day. That day you've got to lie down to try and get over this. Then that's it. This job is all consuming and people don't get that. I've got friends that do 25 hours a week and they're shattered. And they live at home. And they work from home. That's fine. But put yourself in my job where I'm doing 70 hours a week there. Then the rest of it. Now, I'm not asking for sympathy. I've chosen this. But I want rewarding for it. Financially. Because that's the only reason we do what we do. Yes, I like driving a truck. But is it worth it doing it for fucking £14, £15 an hour? Which many of these operators are offering. No, is it fuck? You've got what used to be Vosa. They're waiting around every corner because they're self-funding. They're not funded by the government, where they'd have been a bit more lenient in the old days if somebody made a genuine mistake. The moment those fuckers pull you up, you're looking at a fine for something. Unless, I don't know, unless you're incredibly lucky. Infringements, right? You can get done for that. Any other little thing that you might have overlooked because you're fucking knackered, because you're putting all of these hours in just to pay the bills. Because the bills are going up for everybody, not just truck drivers. But yeah, things need paying for. So you work all the hours God sends because the agency's putting pressure on you, because you have to pay for everything back at home. And God forbid, you might want to treat yourself to something at some point down the road, although that's getting kicked further and further away right now. So yeah, they need paying. And all of the media, they're all on board with it. Oh, well, it'll be this, it'll be that. No, it's not. You know damn fucking well what it is. You've gone and interviewed a lorry driver, and the moment they say something like me, they're like, oh, fucking little Britner, or what is it, fucking far-right wanker, or you'll name them a load of things because they're not fitting your narrative, or uneducated prick wants too much. And a lot of these wankers that all want their products, they don't actually want to see whoever's delivering it doing well out of it. No, they want them struggling. They're sick. You don't believe how many people, fuck them. They should do it for £10 an hour. I should do it for 12. I've heard the cunts. Would you do it? No, I'm not doing it. I want to make them. So not only are you an idle, useless cunt that won't do what you say, you're a nasty bastard, vicious little prick that wants to see somebody suffer for the same wedge. You're a cunt. I'd like to see you go without. And the moment you went without, you'd scream to high heaven. If you couldn't make a call and get, and I wouldn't, seriously, you would not believe the amount of companies, right, that are now delivering to the door, right? I mean, they've even got taxis that will go and pick up people's shopping and deliver them. I know, I found this out. I was gobsmacked. And it usually goes to the same houses, the ones that can't be fucked to work. You know the ones. But anyway, if these wankers picked the phone up and couldn't get their stuff because lorry drivers, and some of these food shortages, by the way, are not lorry drivers. And also they blame the fuel shortage on lorry drivers. And if you believe that, then I'll tell you about the fucking elephants that can fly, you dumb fuck, right? There was plenty of fuel. What they did was they put out into the newses, the papers, whatever, where you get your information, that there was a shortage. Knowing that every one of you greedy fuckers went out there and bought it all up in a hurry so that nobody else could have any. They played on your greed. And it worked. How do you feel? Do you feel played? Now, I understand that the people that had to make it for work that went out and got fueled up because they realised these other greedy fuckers were going to go there and clear it all up. So it is a vicious circle. And not everybody that went out there to get fueled up was a greedy bastard. So please take that in context, because you'll be going, well, I had to get fuel because that ain't going to work. I know. It was the other greedy cunts rushing there first, trying to make sure you didn't get your fuel that made you go. I know how it works. I'm not stupid. But there you go. Excuse me a second. This coffee's going cold. Life is getting worse, and it'll get a whole lot worse. But they are trying to make truck drivers' lives worse, so they leave. Honestly, I've been thinking about it, and I'm thinking about, well, when they build new stuff now, they don't take into account lorry drivers. How many roads do you go down now and you see lay-by closed? Why? What was it doing? What was wrong with that lay-by? If they build new roads now, there are no lay-bys. And when you do see a lay-by, pull over in it and have a quick sniff. It stinks of piss, doesn't it? There's a reason for that. There's no facilities for lorry drivers. So all he can do is piss against his wheel. I did something disgusting the other day. I'm going to tell you about it. I got out and stood in something, and the dog hadn't put it there. Because I don't know how many dogs go and put paper on top. How viciously repugnant was that? Luckily, I was in a truck that was owned, well, it wasn't owned, it was a trans person actually that drives it, and it was fucking spotless, this truck. Well, I'm now panicking for two things. Foot, disgusting, and trans person is not going to be happy when I get back in their truck. Luckily, they had cleaning equipment. I used the cleaning equipment. I was completely spotless when I got back in their truck, and I cleaned their truck down, and I ended up getting a big thank you where I was working, because the trans person was pleased as punch that somebody cleaned their truck. Now, I don't know this trans person's pronouns, so I'll just say trans person. But yeah, Disgusting, but nowhere to go. What happens when you get bad tummy? You're not legally allowed to move the truck, otherwise you get a huge fine, right? And you're now stuck in the middle of nowhere. No toilet, no fuck all. So I don't blame that lorry driver for what he did, although it was gross. But this is the situation we're in. No laybys, nowhere to get no decent food. There used to be a lot of truck stops, little places that did home cooked food, and you could get a real meal. Long are those days gone. That was when there was a lot more, I think, A roads and B roads. And lorry drivers would tell each other, like, nunny catch, right? Funny, the boys used to name that runny snatch. Nice. Whatever. But you could go to all these different places. Because when I used to go out with my dad, he'd pull into a truck stop, although he was in a car, and put it in a car park, by the way. Not like one of these caravanners that pull in and put it in a lorry space. God, they piss the lorry drivers off. I do like to see them wind themselves up about that. But yeah, so he used to know where all of these were. We used to go and get good food. And it was good food, well priced. And as a lorry driver, you look forward to that. That's the highlight of your day. I'm serious. The highlight of your day is if you could pull into somewhere, say for instance, if you're a night driver, or, well, if you tramp. Tramping is staying away in your cab, they call it tramping. If you're one of those, the highlight of your night would be being able to reach a destination where you know the food is good, it's cheap, all right? They've got a good shower, clean. That's massive. That's the bloke made up. That's something to look forward to. I watched a video back in the 80s of a truck stop, and literally she said, we've got to make sure that these drivers are happy with good home cooked food, the showers are all clean, nice good towels for them. And these truck drivers had come from their cab, got changed into their nighttime gear, all dolled up, hair done right, and they were putting on some singers. Fucking strangled cats, I'll admit, but it was something, right? And these blokes were having a pint, getting round, having a chat and they had a life of a sort. Most blokes now, you see, they've pulled up for the night. Somebody's already taken a shit in the shower because they're from some other country that, you know, doesn't get it, all right? And you look at that, you're like, no thanks. All you can get is a pasty or something else. Nope, you're fucked. So you see a lot of drivers have these things in their cab. That's a fridge. And hopefully they've got a microwave. They do their own food. And all they'll do is they'll stay in their cab completely all night unless they have to go and use the toilet. And that's it. Well, that's sociable. It's not good for you, you know, spending all that time on your own. I mean, at night time, getting out and having a chat to the other lorry drivers. All right, all you're probably going to hear is moan, because that's what we lorry drivers are good at. But you do also hear a lot of jokes, have the crack, and they give each other tips and hints. Go this way, don't go that way, that's bad. Have you ever tried doing this? So anyway, that's the whinge over and done with. Tell me what you think in the comments. As you know, I read them. If you want to come and chat to me personally, the links are in the description. Now, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. I don't do a lot on Twitter. I'm on Getter. I've got a news page on Telegram, which Haram fills out every day, and it is rammed. I'm on, but I don't do a lot with it. We'll leave that one. But I have a chat room that I go on, which is on Telegram. The links are all in the description, so just click on it. They're all friendly on there, by the way. You can post what you're thinking. And if you want to talk about this particular topic in there, type away, or just type in the comments here. And I'll be interested to hear what you got to say. Meanwhile, am I late? I don't know if I'm late for work. I best get on. I'll see you in a bit.